all the way over here is spawn. And I have come all the way out here. Me, Lilac, Ellie Grace is out here as well, and there's also Xralia up here. Are all just chilling out in this grove. Oh, our cookie? Want sweet berry cookies or cookies? Oh, there goes Lilac. KK. Oh, I didn't even get to say KK. Bye. Oh no. Castle Part 2? Electric Boogaloo? It can't be done. Oh right, the thing I wanted to show. My horse can fly. Just ever so casually. I have to hold. There we go. I have to actually hold the spacebar. It's flying. I'm very happy about this. I had to change some settings so it'd work. But it works. And I'm very happy. Let's very slowly, carefully. There we go. And I keep that in inventory because it's actually very annoying. It's not nearly as fast as my horse usually is. And I need to remember, before I forget, because I'm getting all the notifications and everything's happening on my phone. Yes, I know. Do not disturb. Thank you. Pop that over to the side. So we have... I wanted to just hang out with the copper golems because they're adorable, and then I felt bad they had nothing to do, so I gave them a couple chests and put some things in them so they could actually have something to do. And Misty requested we add a mod called Undead Mounts. So it's a lot more common for mounts to spawn around, which is why there's a bunch of skelly horses. Yeah. I need to fix the frontier so everybody can make them, because when I make a frontier, I have an option to make it global, so everyone can see it. And it seems like other people do not have that option, so that's probably an operator thing. Sure. I will take Sweetberry Cookie. So I am slowly just collecting horses, because why not? AKA, let me actually explain this. I plan on building a castle here. That's the wrong key. I plan on building a castle here, and I thought it'd be really cool if I had a stable, and a stable needs horses. After I make the iron farm. Thankfully, we already have everything we need, and I even have the villagers. Because mods. You must become the richest. With a castle, we can become the richest, but first, we have iron farm to make. Which should also help me be the richest. I think I have just about everything we can need for... I don't have blocks, so that is an issue that we need to remedy. I'm thinking leaves. I have the piece of soul sand I need. I do need some actual blocks. And I'm gonna need... If I remember correctly, it's gonna be 8 slabs. Slab. Trying to remember the other things I need. I'm gonna need... I need beds for them, that's easy enough. Where did I put my wool? I need 3 beds. You must get past it. No, I am not doing that, with all due respect. I will leave the title of the richest person on Passion SMP to you. Because so far, that has not been a record that's been beat. What else? I think that's about it, because then I just need a platform for the iron golems to die on, and that's it, really? For now, we're gonna have this be a lava platform. What I really want to do, where we're building this... Gotta walk all the way over here, because low render distance. Is on that pier, because it's fairly middle of everybody's bases out here. Because Lilac's somewhere around here. Oh, yes. Hi. Hello. Hi. But we're going to build the iron farm out there, and I would like... Billy Bob. You are fighting... Billy Bob had a shit ton of diamonds last season, and it was a ridiculous amount. I would like to build a bunch of ships over there and use the ships to hide all the farms, so later we'll change this, but for now we can just do a lava kill chamber for the iron golems. Hello! Hi.
Hi, I can bring gifts.
Yes? Sugar cookies. It's not sugar cookies. Sweet berry cookies. Thank you. Ooh. Azalea. Spore blossom. Nice. I have no other things to do except be on here for hours. Mood. I got bored. You mean you didn't want to finish your house? You never finished the roof the entire season. We ran for almost not a year. We ran for like 6 months, and you had the entire house done except for the roof. Thank you. I appreciate it. Ooh, tomatoes too. I'm gonna get fried rice going soon. I do have a group going, by the way. I need to find where all the things belong. Not there. You there. The rest of you up here. I need the lava. Put water in here, and then lava. Then I switched to a flying boat. Yes. And you almost did a giant slime farm, I think it was? It was a slime or sugarcane farm, and then didn't. Hello, Shadow. Why am I thinking of where I need to go? I can go for lava. The answer's very clear. Did I have my stonecutter on me? Yes. We gonna take the horse, because it is just the fastest way for me to travel right now. Boink. Very fast horse. Very, very fast. And we can burn through a quick little iron farm. I'll probably make an overpowered one later, but for now we'll stick with just one. Bonkus, give me the lava. And horsey right here. We go to the pier. Oh. Or it's more of a dock than a pier. And yeah, for now, this is the best we're gonna do. Because I want to keep it a little bit away. We can do this, we can do this. I want to keep it just a little bit away, so the iron golems don't get out. And... oh, thank you.
Please don't
brain this. My brain would like to work with me. That'd be great. Thank you, Nightbot. And I can't see the frickin' YouTube chat again. There we go. Why do you default to that? It's supposed to be on live chat. Thank you. And brain needs to think of the things I can do. I do have crimson wood, so I can do some signs that absolutely won't burn, because I do not trust at all. Oh, yeah. Oh, I can sleep. Let me actually get the correct bed. There we go. Yep. Bonk. You know what I can do instead? You know what we're gonna do instead? Let me take down a little bit of this wall. Because I am gonna change it out later anyway. When I actually change it to a ship, I'll do magma instead in a rail system, rail collection system. There goes the lag. But for now, this just needs to function. So we'll do this instead. And then do... oop. Give me that. Thank you. Do that so I can actually reach it. Yeah. And 4, 5... I'm gonna need that later. Will I need? Do I need? I do not need. We're gonna do that. Where did that piece of cobble go? I must have picked it up. There we go. And I do have extra hoppers. And I should be more than able to make some, if not. Oop. There goes my horse. We get all the things. Get all the things done and make iron farm. So then I can just AFK it for a little bit after stream. And we can get everything really going. Horse is very good horse. We can just let it sit while I grab hopper. And I'm gonna need probably several more hoppers. There we go. Wait, take some of that. I need to take some of the crimson stump, so we'll do that instead, because I need to make the signs to keep it safe, and then use the rest of the crimson stem. Do I have? Yes. Do that to make one beautiful multicolored chest. There we go. Yay, there we go. Place a fox and a bird hang out in. What is... I have to save that. Oh! I get it now, I think. I get it now. Yes, I get it. Okay. I get it. Brain took a second. Did I get it? I got it! Okay. I understand. All the things. I will need 3, 4, right? Yes. Brain isn't braining. Yes, I just need 3. Okay, okay. I have to do extra maths that I don't wish to. And... because my backpack ate my fucking cobblestone. I barely have any. We do have a backpacks mod. For some reason, the big backpack just eats anything I put in it. So, I do not currently trust the backpacks, and I need to figure out why that is occurring. I'm just gonna expand the tunnel while I'm at it. Lovely lag. There we go. Thank you. I'm not using the backhouse all because I want to lose my stuff. That's fair. Absolutely fair. It only started happening when I used the big backpacks instead of the smaller ones. The previous ones were holding my stuff just fine for quite a bit. And then at some point it just started eating it. So I don't understand. I don't know. I forgot there's just a huge diorite cave here. Or diorite strip? Yeah, I think it's diorite caves. I'm not sure. Probably. Please, I wish to have plenty of cobblestone. Thank you. Plenty, plenty, plenty. At least I did get the scaffolding. Hydrate? Yes, yes, yes. Today's drink of stream is yet again sweet tea. Because I finished off the pitcher. Thinking I'm gonna just make a bunch of matcha. That sounds good right now. I'm like half tempted to continue making another pitcher of sweet tea, but I know I'm gonna get tired of it halfway through. So I'm just gonna turn myself over, like, you know what? The next 2-week phase of whatever drink I'm focused on at the moment, we're just gonna make a bunch of matcha. I need to get through it. I have a bunch of matcha powder I need to use. I'm gonna use it. We'll leave horse right here. We'll leave Stinky behind. Stinky, thank you. Hey, boop, boop, boop. And I do need that spot open. There we go. Bonk, and then bonk. I know we can't access this bottom chest right now. Tis is fine. I will fix in but the mom. If it lets me place... Actually, I could just do that. There we go. And another hydrant. Thanks, Billy Bob. I do have stone cutter. Stone cutter, grab. And take... I want... 2... Yes, that's how math works. 2. Or that... Is that be how modeling works? I don't know. Sticking with it. That's how that works. That's how I want it to work. And that's how it will. If it will let me place this. I don't think it will. We place block there, not like that. Second block there. Boop, boop. And that's still gonna refill, so get rid of extra water spot. And steal water from the chest. And also from the other side of the chest. Oh, there we go. Bonk. There we go, and now we can access, and of course that just went back down. Access both chests. And that is another hydrate. Thank you, Billy Bob. I see the minute cooldown is not deterring you in the slightest. Yeah, that should be fine. We're gonna... You probably want it to be a little bit taller so it doesn't accidentally lose the item, so... but, give, thank. Alright, make it 3 tall. I swear I'll find a way to make this look cool, put it in the hull of a ship or something one day, but it's literally day 1. So today, we do what we can with what we have. Bonk. Yep. I have 3k points. I don't know, drown me? I don't know what to tell you. Oop, there we go. Oop, yeah, lag. We'll do that. Yeah, I'll do it. And bonk. And now the fun herein lies of actually making the rest of the damn farm. Actually, you know what I should do, considering the blocks I have? Or we can actually double this. Or, no, that's not a smart idea. I was gonna put the scaffolding as also like a door in, but it'd be too close to the lava and it could burn. So this is what we do instead. It would be a really good idea. Will that be safe though? And it's lagging a lot. Okay, scaffolding does not get removed by water. Good to know. Or the water is flowing in such a way that it's fine. The lag is wonderful. Please. No. Okay. Just build that fairly high up. Actually, because we're so far from anything, I don't think it should be able to spawn on most of this. It does have to be far enough away from the here. Unless I also want to spawn proof that, which I can just quickly do. So that is 555, 29. Yeah, that's math. Another hydrate. Thank you, Billy Bob. It's just gonna very, very slow drowning over here. Pop that back. And boop. It would have been 28 actually, because I haven't done the scaffolding part, and I kind of want to keep the scaffolding right there. So it would have been fine. Well, I now have actually quite a lot extra, because I apparently didn't do my math right. So now I should be able to put this fairly closer. I'm gonna steal one of the beds. I better not spawn back in the frickin' lava. Okay, good. Just on top. Yep. There we go. I'm standing at 66. So go to 96 should do, something like that. Not too high up. Maybe 86. Stop here. That better not burn. Good. Because the plan is eventually, I want to make the villager part of this the crow's nest of a ship. I think would be a really cool way to do it. I never actually went and grabbed leaves for this. That is a problem. I need no debt. Thankfully, we're near some taiga biomes, so it's not too much of an issue. Just go yoink a couple big trees. I think 3 stacks would be more than enough. And there's another hydrate. Thank you, Billy Bob. I love having the cup. I can't wait to use these guys everywhere. Whether it's actual redstone under core, I can't wait. I'm very excited. It was one of the major things I kept looking for on Season 2, but there just weren't any mods that actually would, like, backport. Oh, hold on. There weren't any mods that actually backported them? There were a couple, like, people who were making golem statues, so that's the only thing that popped up. But nobody backported them. So I wasn't allowed to deal and have fun with, my golems. And I've been very excited. And I wanted to at least get a version where we could play the golems, but then I'm like, you know what, we're just gonna go all out. Go all the way up to 26.1. Because why not? There we go. Crops planted. Craps? Yep, the craps are planted. Technically that's correct. If I'm doing fertilizer. Thank you for the hydrate. That is so a thunderstorm. That is so... No? Okay, it's just rain. I don't know my skies, apparently. And we're gonna do boop boop, so when my inventory fills up and it goes back to my hotbar again, I know I'm on the 3rd stack. Think smarter, not harder. Okay, good. I wasn't the only one. It's like the sky is a little dark. Okay, maybe it's a... No, my thing's just rendering weird. That is just a dark sky. I don't know. I was being silly. Oh, maybe that's the gamma. Yeah, it's the gamma that makes it look like that. Okay. This is just the night vision. Give all of the things. Thank you. I'm not picking, like, any of this up. There we go. Very, very slowly. Will it let me just chop all that down? No. No. I was hoping, but no. Got an old-fashioned chopper. While I was alone on the server earlier, I did quickly just change a config. There are 2 configs. I have 3 I've changed today while I've been alone on the server. One of them was when when Ellie was on, I think. And I'm like, okay, I need to change this real quick. And I also have to hydrate real quick. The one was the looter. I had to reset the server so it actually recognized that looter was in it now. Okay, we have enough. We got enough leaves. So I had to reset the server to make sure it actually recognized it. I went to chop a spruce tree, and the default config for the falling tree thing we have is like only 100 logs. So I just went and added 0 to that and reset the server. I know for a fact that one I was the only one on. I think looter I was only one online for 2. And oh, it was the... I didn't want to go adventuring till looter would be there. Fair. And then the other one is I kept getting kicked for flying with having the iron wings thing for the horse. So I had to go quickly find it in the configs, like look up online, how the hell do I fix this? Find in the server properties, enable flying, and quickly turn it on and reset the server for that. And now we have everything. Okay. Come here. Come here, Stinky. Eat tall jumper. Very good. Very good horse. And I'm already almost out of my tea. took all the villagers. You just pop them in your inventory. I still need to make a spawn platform for the golems themselves. I don't trust... I'm gonna go grab some dirt. Did you know that YouTube says that this stream is upcoming? According to my dashboard, it's currently working. We are currently still active. Also picked up a nitwit and threw it out of my inventory to despawn. They still work for breeding. They're still fine if you need a breeding hall. They're just not good for trading. It says 3 waiting. Did it never start? Oh my god. It never actually went live. It received it, but it never actually went live. It never went live. What the hell? I thought it went live. It in fact did not. It says on my end that it's 26 minutes in. Well, ain't that fun? That's annoying as hell. There we go. Now YouTube actually gets to see things. So it went live, but it didn't. It doesn't help. I have it on my second monitor. Okay, so I think... Did it? Because YouTube is like covering... The YouTube chat area is like covering half of it. Okay, so it's actually live. I need to doink in my brain. I have to not only click go live on OBS, but then also go into YouTube dashboard and make sure that it actually goes live and pay attention to it instead of just trusting, oh, it says your stream's working and it's live. No, I have to make sure it works apparently. Anyhow, welcome. We're on the Passion SMP day 1. It's season 3. Welcome, welcome. We're making an iron farm. YouTube gets to ignore all the bullshit of me running around having to grab items. You just get to enjoy me making it. I still need an item. That's why I came back here. I need dirt. Yeah, that should be enough. That should be fine. That should be okay. I do have 2 water buckets, so we're good on that. I can't think of anything. I'm gonna need to come back down for a 3rd water bucket, but otherwise, I believe in my mental schematic we have everything I could need. Because we need to make the platform for the golems to spawn on. I do not trust making out of cobblestone. It has broken on me before and not worked if I make it out of cobblestone. That's probably fixed. I don't care. We're making out of dirt. Is there a YouTube chat? Yes, there is. And I think Streamlabs is being a boy, a bitchy boy. Because Streamlabs should have it set up so the chat that's sitting like little below me, it should also show up on that, but I don't think it is. So it's being a bitch. So let me double check that Streamlabs is actually doing that, because I don't think it is. Chat box. Yeah, it should allow you to, but I don't know. I don't know. It's being silly. It's being very silly. YouTube is a silly billy when it comes to me streaming, and I do not understand, and I don't think I ever will. We're gonna very carefully boink, so I can actually start doing this. I want the iron golems to fall about here, so I have an area for them to work with. I don't know why you're very... What are you doing, Stinky? Has the rain made you bouncy? I don't know what's occurring here. This is the screenshot of the day. I'm gonna throw this. I'm gonna throw this in our Discord for context. I'm just... Wait. Yes, thank you! I'm very happy I made a no context. There we go. Floating horse. I don't know why Stinky's bouncing, but he is. So we're just gonna stick with it. This spot. Yes. Bonk bonk. I want them to probably drop off at this spot. So we can get rid of this at the very least, so that gives me an area to work with. Yes. Perfect. And then we're gonna build this out. Thank you, Billy Bob, for yet another hydrate. There are plus and minuses to each side of the streaming, I feel. Because as a viewer myself, I do really appreciate YouTube streams because I can pause them and then come back to it later and still be at that spot. But Twitch streams are far more interactive, and that can be a lot more fun. With the channel points and so on and so forth. Wait, place everything. Also, I have so much footage from today alone. I'm really tempted, and I think I will. I haven't fully decided at this point. But I think I will actually have the first episode of Passion SMP go up Wednesday instead of my original planned. Still 2k points. Wow. Instead of my original planned Sunday, because I literally have that much footage and I don't want any of it to go to waste. Quote unquote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, 18, 3, 21. Big math. Wall. I wonder, I could do a balcony. But they could jump up on the balcony. I'm pretty sure. Can you jump up on a balcony? Can you jump over a balcony? No, you cannot. Oh, modded blocks, you are fantastic, and I don't need to make nearly as many. So we're gonna do 10. We're gonna try balconies with this farm. Actually, craft all of them. Thank you. I'm gonna have 21 random stone walls now, but this is fine. Will it let me? It will let me do 2 like that. Okay. Do you still have that chick? It doesn't work anymore. I wish it did. It does not. I tried. That was one of the first things I did because we did start messing around. I think I placed 2 here. Lag? Thank you. No, it gave me... Maybe I just had my math off by 1. Okay. But I don't know what setting it is, but the transparent skins ain't working. So it's just... It's just... Oh, it's not even... It's just sad. It doesn't work. That is not the right thing. There we go. My skin. Well, yes, that's what I was doing. Grab uno más. Por favor, thank you. That is the only thing I really know how to say in Spanish. It's the only thing I actually use in Spanish either. I very consistently use it because it's just an easy phrase. Oh, that is I can't place water in the block, though. I kind of need... I need to be able to place water in those blocks. Okay, so now I have a ridiculous amount of rails that I'm not going to use. Because I don't need them. I should have tested that. I didn't even think about it. We're in a version you don't think about if you can use waterlogged blocks anymore. You just kind of assume everything can be. Okay, I can just do this. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Thank you, Macaw. Alright, back to good old. There's a reason why we have it, there's a reason why we use it. I already have both water buckets down. Bonk bonk. Perfect. I didn't need to go back down for more water because I already picked up the water because I wasn't even thinking. I just did autopilot. Thank you for another hydrate, Billy Bob. Okay, we're gonna drain the tea. Tea drained. We good. We're gonna go another little bit up, another couple blocks up. A chocolate. Ooh. I have a... I got... Okay, I have to background story this first. Last year, just around Easter time, my grandparents were visiting, and at this point, it's only my... on that side of the family, these grandparents, there's only 2 great-grandchildren that are of age to do, like, Easter baskets for. And, of course, I go, I wouldn't mind. Half jokingly, but not jokingly. And so I got an Easter basket last year. And I'm wrapping up a video, I'm trying to get editing done, and of course, my grandpa shows up early. and he comes back to my room, and he has a fucking Easter basket again. So we're gonna see how long this goes on for, but apparently I'm getting Easter baskets again. And I ain't complaining. Do you think anyone would make the 50k block long tunnel? Shadow, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of out of the player list. Because it's about the exact same people. Platinum Beard's a wild card. Platinum wasn't able to show up today for the first day. Platinum's a wild card that I don't know. Minecraft? Okay. You do you. I don't even need to do all this. I don't know why I did all this. I didn't need to. I really didn't need to do all this, but apparently we have. I forgot to make trapdoors, so we're gonna do that. And we'll go bunk. I need like 9 or so. Okay, it's just individuals, got it. That feels a little cheaty, but alright. Boop, boop, boop. Shadow must take over for me. You must pass the mantle of a chaotic, random person who's doing absolutely everything except build their base. Oh, and buying out my fried rice farm, because that's a very important detail. Yep, definitely that detail as well. Like, let me out. Let me out. And boink, boink, boink. Boink, boink, boink. This does actually make it a little bit easier for me to... Not really. Hold on. Brain needs to actually work with myself. I need to build this like so. Yes. Okay. Brain is thinking correctly. Perhaps. Maybe. Heavy perhaps. Perhaps. And then we go boop. Temp block. And then the other slabs. And then I need more of the cobblestone. And you know what? We have enough slabs. I'm just going to do the rest of the slabs here. Or actually, I didn't need to do that then. Hold on. Big brain. We just used the slabs in the first place. Because I have more than enough to do that. There we go. And it's a perfect... Oh, it's perfect. It's all coming together. I still do have to get a village. I do have to get a zombie up here. Yeah, that is a thing. I forgot about that part. Everything else of this has been rather easy. That is a part I do need to consider. I come down just a little bit so I can go a boop. Nope, boop. I need you to place this way. There we go. Okay, I can't do that. Give. There we go. Eat sugar cookie. And I shouldn't need some cutter anymore. I just need to replace bottom of thing. And it should be that spot. Yeah, exactly. Now, I need to remember how thing works. It needs to just pop up over it, so I think I need to do this. I think like this. I think that's correct. I believe that to be correct anyhow. And then water bucket. Down there. And then I just need to actually get a mobby down there. Of course, just as the sun is rising, so I can't anymore. Because that's always how it is. Probably just gonna have to make this out of dirt. I'm gonna go back, grab more dirt, drop off the things we don't need. I will leave this, most of this here, at least this part here. I do not. I believe I've already handed it off. Did I hand it off to you? I think, yes, I did hand it off to you. I do not. Stinky's still jumping crazy as ever. Grab those. I didn't realize that bedrock villagers don't get scared from zombies. Oh! That's interesting. Stinky, come here. Stop doing that. Thank you. I need more dirt. I need a lot of dirt. Lot of dirt. And hopefully we can just make one long staircase for this. I might pull up a crafting calculator for this. I think that's the answer here. Surprisingly, graphing calculators are just downright fantastic for when you need to build a bridge in Minecraft. If you need to build a bridge from one point to another and you only know your starting point, your end point, or your starting point, it is fantastic. We're gonna drop... I've split this up, oddly. We're gonna do this then. And then sticks go up in this one. This goes over here. This can go here then. This goes up here. Villagers are being kept on me. We can put this in here. I don't know why I put those up there. They need to go in here. Brain. Still gone. Still just as I need a trapdoor. We need a trapdoor, and I actually need to make a shield. Boop, 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 boop. What? Boop, 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 boop. I need a pop. Nope, thank you. And then... Oh, hello. Thank you. A bucket of axolotl that's gonna go in the valuable boys chest. We know the part I need to get to is this. And we care about... We care about the X and Y, the Z is irrelevant. That's the only coordinates I need to think of for that. And time for me to not see any chats at all as I look up Desmos graphing calculator. And attempt to spell it correctly on the first try. There we go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a nifty little table. We're gonna do X 1329. Oh wait, I need to worry about the Z, not the X. Okay. Negative 450 and negative 449. And negative 449. And then the Y is gonna be... This one is Y94, so we're gonna make the next one 93. Which will tell me... Do you graph the line? Let me slowly zoom out so I can actually see this mofo. There we go. Can y'all actually draw the line of that? There we go. So now that I have that, we can go to the Y coordinate. I wish. Or the... We're gonna go to the Y... Whatever Y coordinate that works for what I need. We're gonna pop him right here. Hopefully, I'm thinking it's probably gonna be somewhere around here. We need to see what it is at 60... 64. I need to see what you are at 64. $64 would then be, thanks to math, negative 420. Fantastic. I appreciate it so much. Welcome to math, people. So then, if I have done all the things correctly, yeah, we'll leave that. Let me see the chat. There we go. If I have plotted things correctly, this should work out pretty much perfect. And even if I got it one off, we're fine. Nope. That looks about right. Yes, I do have another stack. Good. And then the last thing I'll do is put in the villagers. Okay, I'm a little bit off, but that's fine. Oh, that's perfect for that, technically. Let's do this, then. To make sure they fall in the way I want them to. They shouldn't be able to jump back out of that. And how we're going to force them to do this is by boop. And then I'm just going to stand here with a shield and make them go in. So that should get our little villager boy. Or not villager, zombie boy in. And then I just got to name them and we're all set. That means I literally just have to wait for it to be night. Unfortunately. Oh, there goes my mouse. Yeah. There is not but else to do. I'm hearing notifications, I'm not what? I heard a bunch of notifications like chat did go off, but then it just didn't. So I don't know. Interesting. I have a sound effect for whenever chat goes off so I don't miss it. And I just heard that "but" go off like 2 times in a row. Like that stutter. What can do? I have big base. You know what we can do? We're gonna take, what do I have on hand? I don't need extra dirt. I do want more I don't have a lot of cobble right now. I would like more cobble. I kinda do wanna... No, wait, we can do this with cobble deep slate. I have a bunch of extra of it. I'm not planning on actually using it as a building block quite yet. I want to get going started on what my base is going to be. And I am planning this season to purely build it as just interiors. And then the very last thing I'm going to do is exterior. And we're just going to build a big old castle. And I have a very specific vision I want for the first room. And we're just going to build a little outline. I want a double door. I don't want to... You know what? We will make this asymmetrical. I want a little or no, I do want it too deep. Because I want a little extended workbench, a workstation over here. I want a 3x3 little workstation here. There's going to be a gap for a door. And then I'm going to use a little area back here. You know what? We'll do this like this. We'll do it like this. This side will be asymmetrical. And I'm thinking, I do kind of want to do something here. We're going to do... this. Maybe. Triple. No, this one's the lesser of the evils. That works out a lot better in my eyes. And I don't want this super tall. I want this to feel cozy. So we're gonna do... This is basically just gonna be a frame for me to use. And build within. I think 3 should give me enough to do what I want. Alright. We'll bop bop bop. Keep up. I am so tempted to steal that skelly horse. You have no idea, but I already have dozens. So I literally have a dozen horses. I'm pretty sure. Welcome to counting with you. 1, 2, there's 2 mashed up right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I do not have a dozen horses. I could. But they're already in a poor pile there, so I'm not going to. And you know what we will do a spruce for? We will. I do want to get my hands on a fair bit of red dye because I want to do a little rug in this corner. I'm gonna have a tent block here. I know I want doors here, but I'm gonna have... Because I don't want to do spruce right here. I have cobblestone. We're gonna do cobblestone on the spaces I want doors until I decide what we're doing for the other rooms. But I literally just want to do this as incremental rooms. I don't know what I'm gonna have in that next room. I just know the general gist of how I want this one to look. I'm thinking... a rug this size, like this, so it's a little oval. So I want 1, 2, 3, 10 there, 16 total. Carpet? It's nighttime, it's nighttime, it's nighttime. Horsey, come here. It's nighttime, we go get a zombie. That is a mount zombie, I just need a zombie. Preferably one that's closer to where I need him to be. And not a child! Thank you. Oh, there's one guy. There's a guy over here. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yeah, if you could just come on down here, that'd be great. I have a lovely staircase to lead you up for no particular reason. Yes, come on. Come here. Come here, my good zombie. Yes, yes, yes. Come here. Come here. Come here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. There's no particular reason we are going up a large dirt staircase that is definitely not floating in the air to be shortly disassembled after it's used. Yes, 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 yes. Come this way. Come this way. Come here. This is the annoying part that I have to be careful about because it loses me in the corners. There we go. And then I gotta do so on the other side, if it'll let me. That's not quite where I wanted to place that. Okay. Zombie, get named. I didn't quite place that one correctly, unfortunately, and I don't really use a shield. Place, thank you. Can I put it in there? No. I should have expected as much. There we go. And now all I gotta do is destroy the dirt staircase as well. I think I'll destroy it backwards because I need it to get out of range of what the golem can detect so it doesn't spawn on this. Nope, that was a mistake. There we go. That should be more than out of range for it to spawn in. I'm pretty sure that should be within range for it to spawn. I didn't think about that. I'm pretty sure it should be. If not, we're gonna very quickly find out. I can just move it if so, though. It's not too hard to do. Because I forgot, it has a weirdly short range above and underneath. It's like only 3 blocks above or something it'll spawn. Because I dealt with this last season and it was very annoying. And I had to figure out all the different things. Anyway. Villagers. Golem. No golem. This is when we test. By building this up closer. I think we could get away with 3 with right here. This'll do. So we'll move this to be up closer. Because I have a strong feeling if it hasn't immediately spawned, it's probably going to need to be taller. That's usually the case. So we take out all the things. And to make my life easier, getting back up here, because I've already removed the staircase. And we take back all the blocks, and we redo this frickin' thing again, but hopefully it's correct this time. Back to playing Bedrock with my friend. Alright, bye-bye, Billy Bob. There we go, yes, it wasn't close enough. And it's gonna be detecting that guy for a while, so it's not gonna spawn in another one until that guy's gone. Because I know way too much about iron farms. For some reason, I adore the, like, learning the mechanics of Minecraft and making farms with the mechanics. I refuse to touch redstone. I have barely spent the time to learn a rail farm, or the frickin' configuration I need in order to make the little rail cart collection thing, where it actually stops and deposits everything from the rail collection. I'm pretty sure I literally just have a screenshot on my computer that is the correct configuration for that, so I don't have to rewatch through videos for it again. Unless I got rid of it, but I think I still have it. Or no, I have a screenshot of the configuration to break bedrock, not the rails. I should get that as a screenshot, though. That would be another good one to keep. I have a Minecraft folder. I should just throw it in the Minecraft folder. I literally have that for that exact reason. I have a, like, info sheet from when Caves and Cliffs was added of the new ore imports and the correct areas for them. Or the correct, like, Y level for each of them. I also have, like, a trading thing as well. Villager trading sheet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Up. Place all the walls. All of them, thank you. And then boop, boop, bop, bop. And now, we should be A-okay. And we're gonna walk over here. And take everything from here. And we have an iron farm! That should be all good to go. Then he's gonna take forever to die. And this is why we have it so far down too, because you can literally just make the kill chamber here, but then you lose out on iron golem spawns, and it is a fairly significant difference, especially if you're stacking multiple farms together. Which does take a little bit of work to do correctly, but when you do it correctly, it is fantastic and absolutely worth it. We had a ridiculous iron farm last season that I made. It was a quadruple farm, and each of them were close enough together that I had them all in one space, but they all worked independently. None of the spawns actually crossed over, none of the villagers crossed over from each other. It was downright beautiful, and we had more iron than we knew what to do with. Quite literally. Even though I traded a ridiculous amount of it, I think at the end of the season we still had like some 700 blocks of iron sitting in a chest. Or not sitting in a chest, it was sitting in a compactor from storage drawers, but you get what I mean. I'm waiting for storage drawers to update. I really want that to update. It'd be great. Shadow, I want you to get 50k time. Shadow's not back yet, but I will let him know. Yeah, bonk. Or if he is back, he is still deafened. So is there another one spawned yet? Or is it just been... Why are you all actually sleeping? You're not supposed to do that. Well, maybe I'll fix the farm. Sometimes the way the farm needs to fix itself is literally just letting the villagers sleep through a night. So I have no qualms if they're actually just sleeping through the night, and I've made it a little scuffed like that. I am a-okay with that being there. And it's not very often that people let the night go through. I only let it go through because we were trying to figure out the farm. But most often, people are really good about just immediately sleeping all the time. Or at least when I'm on. Probably because I'm doing it. I do not need this. We're gonna throw this away in here. And dirt goes down here. And I need a bunch of carpet. And I shouldn't need more than 19. I want to see... It was 16 total, minus 2, so 14 was going to be actual carpet, and 2 of those was going to be regular wool. I think we're gonna take... Where did I throw it? In here. I shouldn't actually need all this. I should only need like a stack of that. We're gonna take a bunch of bone meal, and we're gonna go run off and find a rose bush. So I can get a bunch of dyes that way. Because I just want my red dye. We might have to go over the mountain for that, though. And we're already hour in. Nice. We'll see if Shadow Veil comes back in time for us to... I know I could steal the tulips. I want a rose bush, specifically. Because that one we can actually bone meal over and over. There's some poppies over here. Is there a rose bush, though? Is there a rose bush in this biome? It does not seem like it, no. What? Something has happened here. Something happened there. Hum hum, num num, num num nums, num nums. Hum hums, hum da hum 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 hum, hum da bum. Where are rose bushes? Where? I know there's a forest across the mountain. My game hates me because we're currently at Y160. And it hates loading this area because there's a giant cave system underneath me. I do not think there's going to be rose bushes in this spot. Okay, we're going across the mountain into the forest. Because I know that area has rose bushes, and I thought about bringing them back earlier, and then I didn't. Good thing I didn't, though, because I ended up with a full inventory regardless. I went backpacking across the entire server, one, to upgrade my horse. We have a mod, so the more you ride it, the better it gets. Which actually gave me achievement for maxing out my horse. And I ran around getting basically... I have almost all the tree types, except for mangrove and warped. And I need to sit down and actually add a warp stone for the warped... Or for the mangrove, not the warped trees. I need to add a waystone for the mangrove. Warp stone for the mangrove, not waystone. We don't have waystones. I wish it updated. It didn't, so we have warp stones. But it seems to actually be perfect for what our needs are. So that's fine. Illager got all the way out here somehow. Where are the rose bushes? There they are. I'm gonna be taking a couple of these with me. Thank you. Have a great day. I don't need no leaf litter. We run all the way over here. And back home. All the way back home. Because this is all I need. It occurs to me I probably... Hold on, I have them on me. This is a situation that calls for it. This is a situation where it's worth it. I need to get mending on these, but... Okay, I think it just glides. I think maybe using spacebar is what uses it faster. But it is a lot faster if I'm actually holding it, but it seems to work just the same if I don't. And not use it nearly as fast as well. Very, very quickly, carefully, head back home. I am very happy that Misty brought up Iron Wings, because I didn't know about this mod. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, sure, let's throw it in, let's try it out. I'm very happy about it. I've ended up getting very much so into using horses in Minecraft, purely because of Misty. Okay, no, that's still using it a fair amount, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not super annoying to craft. It is a little expensive because you got to use a diamond block in its crafting. But it's not too bad if I just want to stockpile a bunch of them. It would be annoying as far as my inventory goes, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Let's do this so I have a backstock of these. And we're gonna take most of that. Apparently I got an egg at some point. We're gonna throw... How many eggs do I have from you? A little bit. Oh, we have a mod that changes up the stacks, which is why I was able to have 3 beds in my inventory at once. And it also changed the eggs and snowballs to be a stack each. Okay. Hondomas chicken. Better than nothing. We're gonna change this. And then, yeah, for now. And this can go up here. We're gonna do, I needed 14. We'll have 15, that's fine. We'll make some more. There we go. These start of a base very, very, very slowly. Very slowly. We'll do this. Bonk. And the idea is I'll have furniture over that little corner piece of the carpet. And I suppose this can go in here, and then this can go back in there. You know what? Bone mail should actually go in here. That's a little bit smarter. And from here, let's make the little workbench space. I kind of want to make it out of jungle wood. Hold on. Let me get some jungle trees going. Apparently I don't have a lot, but it's enough to get something going. Nearby dirt. Just this over here. Okay. That's going to be annoying. Never mind. Dirt. I know there's this patch here. There's a patch over here. I want to use some of the natural dirt patches, but I don't think that's going to happen. I had a giant one over here, but that's how I ended up with all the dirt I now have. So I suppose we're just going to have to old-fashioned tree farm this. And hopefully this is spread out enough that it's not too much of a big deal. And terraform while I'm at it. There we go. Someone's messing with the fire alarm. It was going off earlier because the house got a little smoky. I don't need to have spruce trees going. Oak trees, yes. And we don't have any acacia trees out here. I'm gonna switch these up, each of these, to be this and 2 out. Oh, that makes them a little closer than I want. Okay, hold on. We'll do 1 out. 1 each. And it's okay if their branches cross over a little bit. We have mods to help with that. So get some acacia trees going, get a couple birch trees going, and get a couple oak trees going. So we have a little bit of everything. And I want the jungle wood. I quite like it as a furniture item, usually. Because it's not a wood I use elsewise. Typically speaking. Let's... Oh, because I'm not doing a wood directly. It's not going to give me the shelf as an option. I want to make... We're going to start with 6 of those. And, oh yeah, we can make little heads of each of the blocks too, which is adorable. We're gonna start with 8 of those, and you know what, we're gonna start with 16 of those. And I'll do a similar amount of stairs. Or not stairs, slabs. And... Oh no, there is a 2. There's a couple overlaps. We'll make 8. And And see how well this does. I don't know quite what I want to do for walls yet. Blocks. Blocks. Blocky blocks. Oh yeah, I do have masonry I can mess with. Hold on. What stones? Or actually, let's try deep slate, because I have a lot of that right now. I kind of like the crystal floor. Did masonry? At masonry? Hydrate? Yes. I will hydrate, Billy Bob. Thank you. Masonry does not include deep slate blocks, unfortunately. That's great. I love to learn that. It does have andesite, but not nearly as much as I thought it would. Yeah, I'm kind of tempted, because I want this to be more of like a basement level of the castle, whatever castle I do make. I'm kind of tempted to go with deep slate. I like the flagstone. We're going to try flagstone as the walls. I should be able to just throw the cobbled deep slate in for that. Yeah, flagstone. Can this be recycled? No, it cannot. Okay. So we're going to do a set amount first. Not too much. I say as I make half a stack. Oh, I can sleep. That's smart. That's a good choice. That is a great choice. Okay. No. That missed. No. Can I actually get him? Yeah! Cool. Very happy with myself. Actually, yeah, I really like that. I kind of want to do a border. I want a border block. Probably another deep slate, preferably a smoother deep slate. We could do the windmill weave. The cobbled windmill weave should look pretty damn good for this. Do I have just the right amount of blocks? No. No, I do not. I have a stonecutter in my inventory. I don't know why I'm running back and forth. We're going to start with 16 of the windmill weaves. I imagine I'm going to like this. Yeah, that's just perfect. I completely messed up this area. Bonk. And I need 3 more of the windmill weave. I can make a flagstone stair, so we'll make that in a second. Windmill weave, bonk, bonk, bonk. And I'm going to trade this out, if I can, for a... It's not going to let me. You suck. Oh, I can just reuse it elsewhere. Hold on. Bonk. So that makes 7 I need as the flagstone stair. Excuse. He's literally sitting in place and it's just me otherwise. That tells me I'm gonna... Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep, yep, yep. 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 There we go. I have no idea if the stream itself dropped off. We'll find out. If I am doing the flags... Okay, we're gonna change this to spruce then. Because if I want the weave to face inward, then I'll want it like that. I shouldn't need a shovel anymore, so that should be A-okay. Let me rejoin that group. There we go. It's just being a tad bit laggy, just a tad bit. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Bonk, bonk. Bonk, bonk. Yep. There we go. And there's that 6 more I need? Yes, it is, which is perfect. I better not make the incorrect thing. There we go. Beautiful. I actually quite like that. And I will keep this in my bundle. I will move the one we have over here. I'm gonna slowly move myself into that as we go through. Do I want to do a special brew? Not really. I kind of like the idea of just... Wait. Yeah, we'll just do plain old cobble deep slate as a roof. And we'll use some lighting and colors to make this a little more homey and not so dark and brooding. Because admittedly, this is a rather dark brooding color choice. We should be able to do my favorite bed. Almost, if I had thought this through correctly. Would there be a better spot to do this? I kind of like the idea of having it right there, though. Especially if I have my red bed. I like having a trapdoor at the end of the bed so it looks cooler. But I really like having this little indent. We can do it like this. We can do it like this. This is fine. And then what we're going to do on this side is a little something like this. And then it will also uphold some things up here. No, maybe. I wanted to make it look like it was holding up a shelf. I think the best way I can do that is doing this, though, which would also allow me accessing things back here. So I can hide some workbenches back there. And then I can put some barrels up here and some stuff up here. I feel like right here is going to have to just be a stereotypical thing like this. Yeah. And then probably something to this extent. But then I don't have a space for the stone cutter. I'll have to put some jungle cabinets up here, then. Oh, I should use counters more. We do have counters. I don't think it'd look great for this. What's some other options we got? We have a bunch of these drawers and such down here. I'm completely covering them. There's a cabinet up there. But I think what I can definitely instead, we're gonna go with... I'm gonna go with the original idea I had of it looking like a shelf holding up, and then I can do jungle cabinets up here. And we can do the same thing on this side. I can put a stonecutter there. Or no, I'd have to put a... crafting table there, stonecutter here, put the smithing table over here. Anvil, I'm gonna hide as a decoration for a plant. Because this is big brain time. And, smithing table, anvil, stonecutter, crafting table. I needed to use a bunch of wood at one point. That's why I have a shit ton of crafting tables. No further questions, Your Honor. Recipe, slabs, and trapdoors. I can only make 2. A little bit more, thank you. Also, actually, I know I can do... Let me make more of a lot of things, actually. That'd be the smart choice here. Does this make more? No, the options are generally that. Okay. I need 6. And probably a fair amount more slabs. Just stick with that for the moment. Probably use most of them. Yep. Up, up, up. Up, up, up. They kind of dropped the ball on the jungle shelves, honestly. I think I might do shelves up there as well. I'm not so certain. Yeah, well, we will. We will. That means I need 6 more. So I just need 3 if I'm using the correct one. Boop. Up. Thank you. Up. Nice. And now we can also make my favorite bed. Alright, come over. I need not 1. Or if I'm gonna need not 1 but 2, I might as well just take one of these. And do that, and then we're gonna take... Oh, I only needed 1. Never mind. Okay. And we go... I don't have my crafting table over here. Over here anymore. It's in here. And we're gonna go... Boop. Boop? Yes. And it should just be... What? Never mind. That's annoying instead. You suck. This is gonna go in here. I'm gonna steal a little bit of this. How much red? Wait, what? I think that's... Yeah, that's 2 extra. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm having to math a lot. And my ADHD meds are wearing off, so it is not fun. We do boop, boop, bonk. And then we go boop, boop. And then we grab my red bed, and we're gonna have a very beautiful little bed. And I'm also gonna grab couple of those, couple of these. I'm gonna grab some of those. There we go. And we're gonna make this very homey. Very, very pretty. Bonk. Yeah, I love... Okay, perfect. Great. Great. Can't we make a bunch of different lanterns? Am I remembering this correctly? Lantern. Yes. Yes, I can. I remember really liking the cross lantern. So we're gonna make that one. We're gonna make 5 of that to start off with. I think that'd be a good amount. We're gonna go boop. Probably one over here, one over here. And we'll do 2 over there. Or, I think 3 in here works pretty well. I'll leave the 2 for something else. I'm just gonna pop that in there for the moment. And I'm gonna sleep before Creeper realizes it can come in here. Well, we do have no mob griefing, so that's fine, but... There we go. Oh, I still have to add something right there. Hold on. And we'll slowly move things on over and around. Not this one, but this one. Boop, boop. Steal some lilies. I got mending for 1 emerald. Nice. Boop, boop. There we go. Little bit of green. Almost. You know what? This might be a weird call. I'm gonna change that to wart blocks. It might be a weird thought, but it's a thought I'm having. So let's grab both of these. Because it's definitely absolutely a weird shout, but I feel like, yeah, that mesh is better. Actually. And then I can place... I'm going to switch this to this side, and I'm going to put a pot there with the red mushroom. Actually, we can start moving some of the stuff over. We already have a bunch of woods in my inventory, so we're just going to move the wood chest. And I'm going to have this mostly organized the same as what I've been doing anyway. This is going to have that kind of stuff. That is mostly correct. We're going to move valuables into here. The random blocky stuff that isn't a actual wood Are the random blocky stuff that is a decor block, but it's not a full block? There's a precise thing I have going on for this, and I can somewhat explain it, but not quite. So we run off vibes, is what I'm saying at this point. You are cobbled. You should actually be over there. I don't know why I had you elsewhere. No, I don't want you to be like that. There we go. Everything into here. Dusty's looking really cute, sitting next to my desk. That is my cat, if you are new here. And very cute. I have my cat tree next to my desk, and he loves it, because then I can just go reach over. Hi, Dusty. Hi. Yeah, hi. Little love, little itch. Yeah, there you go. Happy cat. I can start grabbing all of this stuff. This is the lovely thing of day one. Lots of inventory management, unfortunately. A fair amount of it. Very unfortunately. And then the rest of that will go in there. Thankfully, the rest of these aren't nearly as full, so it's not as much of a deal. It's not as much of a problem. Boop, 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 boop. And then miscellaneous, I suppose we can start doing this over here. We'll have equipment one over there. Up, 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 up. Mob loot. Equipment I'm gonna have to do on another trip. I can almost get food all in one, but I can't quite. I might want to move. I'm gonna move miscellaneous over there then after this. Hold on. We'll have food in this, and then plants in the next one. Mob loot in this one. Slowly switch these around. Technically, cobwebs should go in this one, but that's already kind of full, so I'm gonna leave what I did. Boop, 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 boop. Flint should probably go in miscellaneous. The rest of this goes into miscellaneous. Okay. Up, 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 up. Nice. And then the chest goes in there. And grab all of that. Well. Also, yeah, the backpack just eats. No? Did you fix yourself? Did you find... You're not going to give me back the diamonds I put in there, but you're going to fix yourself? What is happening here? I don't know what happened. Apparently, it's decided to fix itself. I don't know. It was eating my items earlier. I really don't know. I still don't trust it. I'm not trying to open you, I'm trying to open this. I'll come back for that. That'll have to be another trip. We'll do big backpack, bundle, 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 bundle. All the bundles I'm not currently using. Rope. Those items. Nope, I did not want to do that. I want to do this. Nope. The problem of moving all this around. There we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't actually need the shield anymore, so we're going to throw that up there, which also gives me a little bit more slots to work with. The rest of the food. I don't have much inventory for else, so we're going to grab some of this stuff. Most of it, if it'll let me. They go somewhere about here. Somewhere abouts. Something like that. Probably this. I do not remember. Could not tell you. And then food. Yeah, that's not a food. This is a food. And then a chest. I don't know when Shadow's gonna get back. I ain't got a clue, it's been a half hour. Not an idea. If they're not back in the next 15 minutes or so, I'm gonna wrap up though. Because I have been talking and working all day. And I got what I wanted done for this stream. And there's still plenty more I would like to get done. But I would like to do that another day. I have been literally playing this all day. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, right, because I did this, then I could put this down here, which is what it actually was. And then boop, boop, boop. And then the last chest in there. And I never planned out another room. Actually, let's first plan out some doors. What do I want as a door? Door. We've got a lot of door options. I kind of want to make a panel door. I almost want to make my shoji doors again. Ooh, whispering door. I do have to make a door print for that, though. But that's not too big of a deal. So I think we're gonna do that. Did you tell? Shadow's not back yet. Oh, welcome back. Shadow just came back. Billy Bob wants you to get 50,000 diamonds. Best of luck. Will it? No, because it's a modded thing, or am I lagging? I might be lagging. I am lagging. Great. Give? Did they? They used acacia sapling. They used acacia leaves. Okay, noted. I now have acacia sapling leaves. And pale oak logs. Great. Let me wrap up my little house here. Actually, I don't need to come over here anymore. I don't need to be over here. I simply need to put this away. I do have paper. I do have that. We're gonna make... Can I make doors directly in here? Yes, I can. I need 7 doors, so we're gonna make 8 of these. That's probably incorrect amount for me to do this, but whatever. So I'm pretty sure it gives me extras. Yeah. So I literally just needed to make it once. Oh well. And that gives me 1 extra of the prints, and then pale oak doors can be thrown in here. And then I need spruce log. Or not log, plank. I do need log, actually. That is a lie. And I believe it should be just this. No. How did you want me to do this again? Recipe 2. Okay. There we go. Make my doors. I adore them. Because of course I'm taking the cheap shot joke. And a bonk. And a bonk bonk. And a bonk bonk. There we go. It's a cozy little spot. Let me turn off my gamma for like 2 seconds. It's a cozy spot. Let me turn my brightness down, actually. Not all the way down. Just like moody. I can turn it really low, apparently. We do not need that. I just want it to be... It's probably 200 for moody. That is too moody. Probably negative 100 then. Apply. There we go. Nice and moody. That's cute. And then complete opposite. Just the absolute complete opposite. Alright. You ready to do Woodland Mansion, right? Shadow? Trying to get chickens. Okay. I will run on over to you then, because you're quite a bit for me. Uh-oh. Well. Foxes do that. I'm gonna be very excited when I actually make something so we can actually get through over the mountain a lot easier. I just need to dig a tunnel. I need to sit down and dig a tunnel. That'll be tomorrow. Because going over the mountain is not fun. It is not. We just need... Oh my god. We just need a nice leisurely tunnel to go through. Shadow, you need to get 2 shulker boxes of Totems of Undying. That is what Billy Bob is saying. This truly is passing down the gauntlet of chaos. Oop, let me over the frickin' mountain. I went up probably the worst way possible, but whatever. Let me turn back on the waste points. There we go. That's spawn. I need to go this way. I need to go another 800. Finally, someone who thinks like me. Perhaps. I shall not speak for Shadow on that end. This takes forever. There's a surprising amount of horses. We might need to- I might need to turn down the undead amount. Did I turn back? Oh, because I don't have it bright. It's not gonna- the gamma utils is not gonna be bright. Okay. I get it. Like, there we go. There's too many. No cows are spawning. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that is the problem with the Dark Forest, because it just- nothing ever despawns. Because they're all safe to be here. They could just kind of exist. You could go light up the area and then kill a bunch of them. We need to take it now. Ooh. Is that why you ended up not staying in the mansion, or is that like, gonna be a later thing? Because I know Carry On, they wanted to get staying in one. Are they- you were going for the Forbidden Castle, right? Horse too fast. Game don't know what to do. They want to live in the mansion where you're going to collect our base. Connect our bases through the mansion. Okay. It's a long-term goal. Got it. Start a base right now. And I'm almost there. I'm 100 away. Oh, the lovely birch. Birch place. Is that? Oh, that's potatoes. Yes, potatoes. Oh, I have walked right past you. Hello. Hi. Ooh. Oh, and of course. Oh, many horses. Lots of horses. And all the chests, of course. Nice. I got a bed so we can set our spawn point outside of it. Or outside the mansion. Ow, my shoulder. I've been sitting at this desk way too long. And I'm gonna sit at it more afterward. Huh? Yes. Oh. There we go. And it's just straight, almost straight. Nah, like northeast. Well, there goes my horse. I do have a carrot farm though, so that certainly helps. Just feed him a little bit when I get back. And I'm gonna wisely stay on the edge of the Dark Forest. There it is. Okay. Is the entrance on this side? Where? Oh my god, that's a cliff. Entrance... Is it in the front? Oh, entrance is actually in the front. Okay. Everything good?
Um, come to, this is concerning.
What is, what is concerning? Oh my goodness! Yeah, I wasn't sure if we had the mob spawning problem. Now that confirms it.
I think I might have found why nothing is spawning.
Yeah, this is a problem we had last season, which caused like a 4 dozen villager village. So yeah, definitely occurring again. I am not taming all of those. No thank you.
I will tame a few.
At most, I'm gonna have one cat and I'm gonna sit it on my bed at my house. I need to go check out Misty's base and how she's doing with all that. Because I directed her to the wonderful floating island.
Yeah, I went to Phoebe's house earlier.
I'm going. Let me sit. There we go. I'm gonna put these out. Maybe not. Hold on, let me actually trade out so I have my sword down. No, 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 no. Get rid of the witch. Witch first. I apologize. Thank you. Bye-bye, bookish. Have a good night. Okay, respawn bed, here. I should have brought some of my bundles. That would have been a smart choice. I did not. Oh, lovely. I just saw a creeper walk into that room. Great. That's the next... there's never anything in that room. That genuinely just never has actually a looter chest. It's just a normal frickin' chest. This is gonna suck. I forgot how annoying the Vindicator boys are. Oh, I forgot about... I'll take some resin clumps. Yeah, no, I'll take a Vex. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm taking all these cats. Australia likes cats. Big cat music disc. Get bonked. Into room. It's literally just an axe. Okay. Not gonna worry about it then. And that's it. Okay, great. Love to see it. So I've got... Oh, I did get actually a pretty amount from that corner. Oh dear. The mini-map for this is so chaotic. Why are there so many creepers?
Don't know.
There's a zombie. There's 2 zombies chilling up there. Okay, I found a creeper. At least we can kind of just hit them a couple times and stand back, because we don't have the griefing. There should be a room here. No? Oh, it's just the wool pile. Okay. I was like, secret room? No. Oh, great. I've unleashed the horrors. What? Please, handle everything? Okay. I handled half of it. Thank you. I am still, like, thriving off of the food that I got at the very start. I don't think I've actually gone specifically for more food. I know I killed a couple of cows at some point, but I don't think I've actually cooked that meat at all. So I'm literally just vibing with what I started with. You know what? Actually, are these considered? No. They're not. Oh... I bet. I've been running around on horseback, so I haven't actually been wasting any of it. Just gonna steal all these. I mean, if I don't have to craft chests, I'm not going to. These are all for the taking. You know what? I'm gonna steal that. I love the blue orchid pot. Thank you. Well, I should go steal the pot from another room so I don't have to craft it myself. So I still want to put that pot in the first room I made, the little starter house. Hi, sir. No. I should have brought the skillet. That would have been fun. I should have brought the damn skillet. Oh, that's upstairs. Okay. There's a bunch of things upstairs that are running this away. Oh, jeez. Oh my goodness. No. No. You suck. I should have came here for red carpet. Oh, aw. Oh. Buddy. I'm like half health. Okay. Stairs upstairs. Marka. That. Big room. Big room. And none of the bad boys. None of the really bad boys. And this is definitely making me burn through food way more. That's gonna be fun very quickly here. I'm definitely gonna have a nice warm room after this stream, though. That's just creepers. Another creeper, and no thank you. I mean, I'll take it. I don't kind of need the god apples, but sure. I'll take golden apples, pop them in there. It's just a normal one. I guess I'll take bones. Bones are good. Let me reload chunks. Apparently I accidentally took a screenshot. I don't even have my... I have it down to 8. I don't know why you're very upset. Quality. Oh wait, hold on. Where is it? Where is... Does it not let me... Biome blend, performance, advanced. Is it in general? General calling. Where? What? I don't care about this. What? Default. Okay. General? Where? I just want to change it so it's not rendering all the frickin' leaves. But all I can change is the fancy clouds. I'll do fast clouds. That'll help at least a little bit. Turn off smooth lighting. I don't care about that. Decrease particles. It won't let me turn down the damn trees, though. Do I have the fancy... No, I don't have fancy leaves. Like, probably something's changing into fancy leaves, but... Okay. That's only marginally running better. I'm turning back on the smooth lighting. They just really yeet that setting. Just... I just wish to change it so it changes the leaves, see-through leaves. No. There we go. It's just called see-through leaves for some reason. There we go. Now my game looks kind of like shit, but at least it's that's a child outside. I saw this is a child just running by the window. Okay, big old library. Oh yeah, this is running way better. It was definitely the leaves. 100%. I should drink some agua. Oh, lovely. My VTuber's lagging as well. Oh, well. Tis is what it is. And run all the way back. And go do 3rd floor. And then we'll close off stream. I gotta get back home first. But then we'll close off stream. Is there a guy hidden here? Yes, there is. I'm very glad I checked. Yay! Got him. For the stupid frickin' devil angels. Devil spirits? Devil spirits. I think that's better. I'm gonna die. I'm not wasting a totem on your stupid little butthead vexes. There we go. Where's? See you. Hello, Nika. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. We're trying to get through this stupid... Where's the other one? Okay, that Vex died. I can see on the mini-map. I can't... I see you! Get over here. No! Stupid little thing. You suck so much. Get back here. Yes. Yes, good. Die. Die. Thank you. No. Please. Please. Literally. Thank you. Fantastic. Okay. And Shadow's way ahead of me. Hey, it doesn't have the glitch. Good. I want, give. I want those. I want the clay pots. I gotta love when it's lagging so much I can't even open a chest. And my VTuber takes 3 extra years in order for me to open, or look to the right. There we go. Yeah, the leaves look horrible. It's fine. At least my game's running. Doesn't seem to be anybody. This thing there. The skeleton horse on the roof. Bonk. Oh. There we go. And then just the thing up here. Was there a horse mount out there? Horse mount! Nice. There's a looter up here that's... It's alright. I guess. I got a lure book that I don't need. Oh! Pure totem time! Nice! Yippee! Oh, the stupid little shits. Get back here! Get you- No, Batman. No. I said no. Y'all suck. So much. It doesn't help I'm lagging either. Where? See? Okay, it's almost dead. Just die. That's all I want. Okay, that one's dead. Other one's still existing, but it's gonna die by my hand. Pretty please. Let's see. It's on the mini-map. It's dying! It's gone! Okay. And that seems to be it. Yay! Okay. And now I gotta walk the 1,000 blocks home. Well, not walk. I have horse. I have Stinky. And with barely enough food left, so... I should have enough I can get the fried rice going. I should have enough eggs. Ooh, I gotta get a cooking pot. That is a baby child. I'm just gonna run. I'm not gonna worry about a baby child. We just run. We just go. I'm not gonna pretend there is not a baby child currently behind me. And we're just gonna... I'm gonna yoink my bed. Bonk. Stinky! Hello, sir. Come here. I love having a ridiculous horse. There we go. And I'm gonna slowly make... Oh, it's probably... Let me get to the coastline. Hold on. If I find the coastline, then I'm good. I'm set. Mostly. But the coastline ain't too bad compared to the rest of this bowl. Pretty please. Just let me get down. Just let me get down to the coast. I understand that's still like another 500 blocks, but at least it'll help me make this a little bit easier. Very carefully. There we go, coastline. Fantastic. Free sailing. There's a free bird. Dun, 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 dun. I haven't listened to it recently enough to actually properly do it. I wish I did. I was listening to a bird. What was I listening to? I was listening to it earlier. What was I listening to? I could tell you it's the Steve Miller Band. Fly like an eagle. I was listening to Fly Like an Eagle. All I had to do was do it. Let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep moving. Just keep sprinting? What would it be called? What would it be referred to as? I found somebody's random crafting table. As the staple of these typical SMP. Where am I going? This is where I'm going. You know the grove? Oh, it's called a lavender grove. The lavender grove, this grass almost looks like alpha grass. It's not quite the same, but it's just enough of like the correct hue, even though it's not the correct color. It's just like the correct tint. I can't remember the correct word I want, but it is just barely the correct thing where it looks cool. There's a little clan of tropical fish right there. Slowly. Very slowly. I'm very happy Mojang finally fixed it, so you can just go across water with your horse. Because, wow, they should have done that way earlier, but at least they fixed it. Okay, almost home. Almost home. Go sit. Go sit. Go chill. Oh, let's check on the iron farm, actually, before end off stream. Because it should have been running while I was doing all the other things. If I have done it correctly. If not, then I'm gonna have to fix it another day. Stinky. Stinky? Let me off. Stinky, please. And this is about when I get disconnected. Chat disconnected. Okay. There we go. We're reconnecting. Okay, lovely. Great. Great. Slowly, very slowly reconnecting. There we go. So yes, swimming horses are nice. I'm stuck on 1.20.1, so I can't enjoy it. Ooh, we just upgraded the... It was working! Fantastic. We just upgraded the server to 1.21.6. I think previously we were on... Or not, 1.26.1. Mix those. Previously we were on 1.21.8, I think? But I think before that we were... Season 1 was on 20.1, I believe. And my copper golems are slowly oxidizing because I've been on all day. I don't think there has been really a moment where there hasn't been someone on or within the vicinity. Oh yes, one last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to add one of the mushrooms. Everything's been moved in. I don't have to worry about it. It is right here. Do a pop. Yeah. I wanted a little more red to tie everything in. And let's put away items that I can. I suppose this can go in here. So I don't have to worry about this. What do I consider resin? Because there's been... I have distinct spots. You know what? It's going in mob loot. Well, I'll pull it in miscellaneous. I think that's the best spot for it to go. Equipment stuffs. Flower pot's gonna go in there. Plant. mob stuffies, emeralds, and I'll get those discs to Axralia. There we go. Alrighty. So we made a little starter base. And we got so much done. I've gotten so much done today. And my VTuber hates me, but it's fine. I'm really tempted that I will just post the first episode on Wednesday because I have so much footage and I should probably use all of it. But we'll see what I do. We'll see how it goes. I might just keep going and have myself have even more footage. We'll see. I have to edit through it first. Let me close that so I'm nice and safe. We're gonna set spawn point because I had in my bed. All right. It looks nice. Thank you. I'm gonna close this because it really hates me. And I guarantee you the moment Minecraft closes, suddenly my VTuber is gonna be fantastic. Can it load? Oh, yep. It's a lot happier. It is far happier. Okay, wonderful. Let me see. I want to see. Do I know anybody currently live? I do not think so. Guys, most people... Oh, Rivers is. I think we're just going to end off here, though. So that'll be it. Let me think of all the things I need to talk about. We stream on Saturday, Sundays at 7 p.m. This VOD is going to go up Tuesday, and yesterday's VOD, where I was testing out XP spawners on the amalgamation mod back, is going to go up tomorrow. I already have it up, or have it uploaded, so it's scheduled to go out 12 p.m. tomorrow on Mute 2, the second channel. There will be a second channel video this Wednesday of the lost footage from the hardcore. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the PSMP footage yet, because I have at least 7-8 hours from today alone of just the first day, because it was hella chaotic and my frames are dropping and we're slowly coming back. So I'll see what I do if you don't get a notification that I've posted a video, then I decided I'm just going to put it all in one on next Sunday. I can't think of anything more other than that. So next stream will be this coming Saturday. I'm gonna double check my calendar for that. Yes. The next stream will be this coming Saturday at 7 p.m. PST. And then there was a video that went out today, the second episode of the hardcore that I unfortunately also lost, but it's there. Which is actually perfect timing for PSMP, so now I can full focus all of my brain power on PSMP and having a lot of fun with it. And I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's about it. Oh yeah, Discord. Discord has most of the notifications, so if you just want a little douse of everything and like chilling out the community, we have a Wordle over there because I adore it. Also the counting channel. I need to do today's Wordle. I haven't done that. I'm gonna do Wordle after this. Alright. I think that is all and everything. So thank you all for joining me. Sorry, YouTube chat, I forgot to click go live apparently, because YouTube live streaming is very awkward and weird. I think that's it. That'll be it. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.